just because you've been able to grow an MSP, it doesn't really mean you know anything about how to find the right people for your company.
But if you give them that clarity, you hire competent people, and you make sure they have the resources and you get out of their way.
Make sure that they are self-aware in terms of their strengths and their weaknesses. Leverage your strengths, outsource you. Hi, Shawn and Dave. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, honey. Great to be here.
Yeah, so last time we met in person, it was London, Halo Orbit. Loved your presentations, and I'm like, this thinking I would like to share through my podcast, and that's when we decided to do this. I am super excited about having a conversation with you today and take your experience to the channel. So you have lots of experience with your own MSP, being an owner, you both, and you had a very successful exit, travel that journey that a lot of MSPs are traveling, and now you are sharing your experience with so many other MSP entrepreneurs, and with that, there comes more learning, because now you get very diverse perspectives, businesses in different phases, businesses with different challenges. And so now you have exponentially grown your insights, your learnings in terms of the channel. So let's start. My first question, Shawn, is for you. What do you see as the biggest challenges and opportunities for MSPs in today's channel? And how can MSP owners work with strategic coaches like Encore to turn those challenges into growth opportunities?
Yeah, great question, Sonny. When Dave and I wrote the book, The Pumpkin Plan for Managed Service Providers, one of the things that we identified is that managed service providers have a tough time differentiating their businesses and understanding what it means to differentiate. So we come from an engineering background. We tend to see things in black and white. And, we always get the feedback from people saying, well, I do the same thing everybody else does. How can I differentiate? So one of the things that we do as a company is to come in and really help them identify where they are uniquely different than their competitors. And MSPs seem to think that that's around technology and it's got to be something big and bold, but it can be something as simple as just how you engage your clients. What type of experience do you create for them? How do they feel when you walk out of the room? How do your engineers talk to them? And simple things can create such big differentiators for somebody. And we find that really helping people understand that and dialing it in, not just from the leader, but from the entire team, can make a tremendous difference in the company and they can have a much greater impact with their clients with that.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say, Shawn, differentiate yourself. As an entrepreneur, the business that you have built is unique. There's always something that you are doing so uniquely that no one else can do. So be more self-aware as a leader. What your business is offering as a unique experience to unique value prop, how you do things, how you make people feel when they're around you. And when you know this, then you can differentiate yourself.
Absolutely. Like you say, it doesn't have to be big, bold technological differences. It can be as simple as, when we're on stage talking about the book, one of the things I do is I wear a suit and tie, and a bow tie in particular. And that actually came from one of my clients, because one day I worked with mostly law firms, and one of the attorneys at a firm came to me and said, you're dealing with law firm partners. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, why do you look like one of your engineers? He goes, you should look like the owner. He goes, you need to dress like us. And this guy always wore a bow tie. So the bow tie was kind of a nod to his advice. And I thought about it. I'm like, holy cow, he's absolutely right. And so a differentiator was, I was the only MSP walking through the door in a suit and tie talking about the business side of their practice instead of talking about technology. And that was a huge differentiator. It allowed us to ask for a higher price because they saw higher value. They identified with us more, and our sales increased and our average seat price increased with something as simple as, how do we show up dressed to a client?
No, absolutely. And I learned the same thing, Shawn, when I used to go to Wall Street customers. And one day I told my engineers that, hey, if you don't want to be called tech. And people were like, they're like, oh, I'm a computer engineer, or I did computer science, and this guy is saying tech, and I don't like it. I'm like, then present yourself as an engineer. And now things have changed. I think this Google guy changed a lot of things with this T-shirt. But back then, when we were running MSPs, that was a thing close to Wall Street. But I'm glad to know that you were living that mantra in Boston. I mean, in your neighborhood there as well.
Yeah, and and I'm not saying go out and wear a suit. I'm saying figure out what your differentiator is.
Yeah.
One of the examples I use when we talk is liquid death water. And I hold up a can of liquid death, and it's water. It's plain old water. All they did was they changed the packaging, they changed the delivery, and it changed the perception of it. They charged 3 times as much as water in a plastic bottle, and they're selling like hotcakes. The company was founded in 2018. They were valued in last February at $2.4 billion just for putting plain old water in a can. So after that experience, I don't let anybody tell me they can't differentiate. So.
You can always differentiate. And thank you for sharing that. And Dave, you have been in this channel from long time, lots of experience. And one thing that I know about you is that you do a lot of work with MSP owners now where they need some team building advice, overall talent side of the thing, people side of the things. So what are the challenges that you see in the channel, and what are some of the strategies that you can suggest to overcome those challenges?
Well, the landscape is changing. I think, and I'm not blowing smoke here, I think that you've been part of driving that change. There used to be one way to solve personnel issues, and it was to go and hire somebody local who was going to work in your office. Now there is a lot more availability as far as places to outsource to. You can outsource your bookkeeping, you can outsource your PSA management, you can outsource all kinds of things. There's offshoring, there's nearshoring, there's in-office employees, there's remote employees, there's hybrid employees. The formula for putting your staff together has changed, and with that comes new challenges. As far as how do you build a cohesive team in 2025, that's going to function like a team. And then there's the issues that are never going to change in terms of the small MSP houses. You have the same issues that MSP owners have had for 30 years in terms of how do I scale my company and grow a staff without keeping myself in the middle of everything. I tell people, if you're 10 people and you don't have a service manager, a level 3 engineer, and someone that can focus on projects and onboardings, you're not set to scale. You can be 25 people and still have yourself in some of those seats if you're the owner, and you're going to have the same issues forever until you get yourself out of those seats. So that the landscape has changed. There's many more ways to solve issues other than find somebody down the block who can work in your office and go to your clients. But the structure has not changed that much at all. I used to hire like I see most MSPs still hiring, in terms of you get busy, you get overwhelmed, you say, oh, we need somebody else. You go try and find somebody. The best MSPs are building armies. They are crafting their staff. They are planning. They know what they want to look like when they're twice the size. What they do today has very much in mind where they want to be tomorrow. I think it's a really exciting time as far as options for team building and ways to be more profitable and make more money. I think it's also a time to be very intentional and seek advice on the best way to structure your staff and considering different options. Someone who has an MSP in San Francisco where labor is going to be 40% more than anywhere else in the country, should not say, hey, I need everybody in the office. We need everybody local. There's somebody who's in a really rural place is going to have limited talent there. There's all kinds of factors to consider and everybody's got to custom build their own staff, and it takes a lot of strategic thinking, and the number of options is just way more than it was even 10 years ago.
Yes, especially post COVID, finding top talent for the open seats when there are so many jobs in the tech sector, especially cybersecurity, cloud, now AI, and it's hard to find people where the right person, right seat can be ensured. So thinking beyond local boundaries. And now I was in India and I was shooting a video, old India versus new India. I'm going in this auto rickshaw to different Starbucks, and you can find Starbucks in any city that you go to. There are 400 plus Starbucks, and I'm like, this entrepreneur from Pike Place in Seattle, thinking borderless vision, capabilities, and reach with the unique product that he had. And now there are, I think it's about $700 to $800 million that is being generated by Starbucks from India, similar from the Philippines, and that comes back to a U.S. company.
Mm.
So now MSPs like Thrive, to so many more MSPs, they have been like their overall target market is not only the US, it's Canada, it's UK, Australia. We were in the UK. How many MSPs have gone beyond local boundaries to find their reach expanded? So from the talent capabilities and the reach capability point of view, MSPs that are thinking big, I think they will, to your point, they are thinking unconventional and their growth will be exponential.
And to follow up on that too, the one other thing that we're seeing with really successful companies is that they're not just hiring for people to complete tasks. They're hiring people who can be mentors. And the best teams that I think Dave and I see are the ones where there is a mindset of mentorship throughout the organization.
Oh, yeah.
And they're building leaders at all levels. And that's a very different mindset than in the past. Before, we hired people to be to complete tasks, and now we're hiring people to learn and to teach, which really allows the business to grow exponentially, amongst the other things.
Yeah, my company, PeopleSharp, focuses on recruiting for MSPs. We do direct hire. We actually have some clients in common, Sonny. I don't know if you knew that they say when they hire onshore, they work with me. But they've got 30 or 40 people with you, and it's working great for them. When we onboard a new client, the first thing we talk to them about is the managing mentality versus mentoring mentality. That the healthiest MSPs build into their staff first and foremost, and then the staff takes care of the clients and leads to the profitability of the company. And you see all kinds of MSPs that view people as a tool to be used, the same way you'd use a keyboard, and as soon as that keyboard stops working, you throw it out. The best companies invest in their people, and they see a return on that investment. We had a sign in my MSP when I owned it that said, we service people, not computers. Mm-hmm. It's an underrated facet of this business that if you have happy technology and unhappy people, you will no longer have a client. It really is a people business, always has been, always will be. The technology is the medium.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. And that's so true. Like companies, especially bigger MSPs, and more MSPs are getting bigger. Their main challenge is to grow their middle management layer, their leadership layer, the quantity and quality of leaders. Because like for us now, we will be 1,000 people company. We are very close to 1,000, and we hired exactly 509 people last year. Out of those 120 people. So we had 15 on January 1st, 2024 in the Philippines. Now we have 135. And in India, we hired about 333 people. and the rest in the US.
Wow.
So total 509 people. And when you have that type of scale, the people, like, I cannot do everything. And for that, I need to be able to have the right people doing the right thing, the talent positioning, and then just focus on cultivating that talent, leadership development. And that's the only way to keep the culture that we always had that made us successful, and the people side. If there's one thing, MSPs can do well, is the people side of their business. And to my next question, what is that one thing that you find common in entrepreneurs when it comes to their habits and mindsets where they're doing well?
Sonny, I mean, you've just kind of gave me a lead into that. And one of the things is, stop micromanaging, because when every MSP we talk to says, I want to grow, I want to grow. And you can't be successful growing if you continue to micromanage. At one point in my MSP, we did an acquisition that doubled our size overnight. And I realized very quickly, I could continue to micromanage my team, or the acquisition could be a success, but it wasn't going to be both. And it was great because it broke me out of those habits. And, people who want to grow their company need to think of themselves as leaders. And the habit that I see is that good leaders provide three things for their team. They provide absolute clarity on the mission, the objectives, and how success will be measured. There are so many teams that I walk into and I say to the owner, if I walk up to so-and-so and I ask them exactly how their position is measured and what does it mean to be successful in the job you do, would they be able to tell me? And, the head goes down, and, I should be able to walk up to anybody in the company and they should be able to tell me how success is measured for the job that they do. The next thing the leader has to do is ensure competency. So the hiring, what Dave's talking about, is we have to have good process. We have to be hiring the right people. We have to be hiring good culture fits. And then the leader needs to make sure that the team has all the resources they need to do what's being asked of them. After that, I added a fourth one to this, and it's get the hell out of their way and let them do their job. Because so many times we think we're adding value as owners, getting into the middle of things, and all we're doing is slowing them down. Just let them do their job. Chances are they're going to come up with better answers than you do. And what I see, the leaders who develop that habit, and so many times I hear people tell me, oh, I told them what the mission was. Well, there's an old saying, you have to tell people something 12 or 14 times before they hear it. And a leader will tell me, well, I've already told them 6 times. I said, great. You only have to say it 6 more times before they actually hear you. But you have to over communicate. You have to constantly reiterate. And then you have to celebrate those little wins with your team. But if you give them that clarity, you hire competent people, and you make sure they have the resources, and you get out of their way, your team's going to do amazing stuff.
Yeah. Provide clarity, direction. Communication will help you to make sure that your team is on the same page, and then give them guidance, direction, and get out of their way, and let them do their work. And that's how you can move from micromanagement to overall being a visionary, being a true leader who is there to provide clarity, coaching, and recognition, reward, celebrating wins. That is the key to success. Now,
there's a great quote by George Bernard Shaw that I use a lot. It says that the single biggest problem is in communication is the illusion that it happened. And there's so many leaders who think they're communicating, and they're confident they're communicating, and they're still very wrong. So when we can work on that, and we can help them get that clarity, and more so impart that clarity on their team, that's when the magic really starts happening.
Absolutely. And Dave, my next question is for you. What are some of the most common mistakes MSPs make when they are scaling? Entrepreneurs, where they are into now more of coaching is their main purpose. How can you help those MSPs not make those common mistakes? So what are the common mistakes, and how can you help?
Yeah, well, I'm focused on teams, like you said. So, I mean, there's all kinds of common team building and hiring mistakes. Probably the biggest one I see is overweighing experience. The hiring somebody because of what they know how to do or what they say they know how to do versus, culture fit versus intelligence, raw capability versus work ethic. And when we do hiring, I tell people, you're going to give me a job description and it's going to say, I want someone that's done this, this, and this before, that knows how to do this, this, and this. And I'm not even going to look at those things until the very end of our process. The first thing I'm asking is, what is this person's character and would they make a great employee? Because if the character isn't correct, the culture fit isn't correct, the raw qualities, who the person is not correct, it doesn't matter what they know. They're not going to work out long term. So that's whether you're one person or 1,000 people, that stays the same. One other thing I see with MSP owners, and it's not just MSP owners, it's every business owner, right? Once you've had a modicum of success, you've built a $3-4 million company, you start to trust your own instincts too much. It's the whole, as an MSP, when we service somebody who's in financial services or legal field, who thinks they're experts on technology because they've gotten rich, trading bonds or doing legal work, doesn't mean you know anything about technology. Just because you've been able to grow an MSP, it doesn't really mean you know anything about how to find the right people for your company. It's a learned skill. And it's not one you get just by being in business. You get it by looking for the right things. And it's about who the person is first and foremost, in my view.
Take time in the beginning. What do you need as a business? Being more self-aware in terms of what that alignment looks like. So have that culture alignment. Culture, first of all, self-awareness, that what that your culture looks like. What do you want? And then do a great job in the beginning to find people that are aligned, and then basically take care of them.
Yeah, and there's a bigger principle there, right? In order to be self-aware, you have to have some humility, right?
Yeah.
Just because we've been successful in one aspect of our business, it doesn't mean that we know how to do everything our business will ever have to do. That's why we need to seek out coaches. That's why we need people with different talents than us around us. Like the best leaders don't just know what they're good at. They know what they're not good at. They don't just know what their personality and gifts lends itself to. They know what those things don't lend themselves to, and they compensate by bringing in the right kinds of help.
Yeah, especially when it comes to a leader is an entrepreneur or business owner. They are business owners. So when it comes to people having really, look, this is the most challenging part, is that humility, is because entrepreneurs, they start their game because they're very self-directed. And it's very hard for them to really be more self-aware that they don't need to be self-directed in every single part of their business. And it's okay to find people where you're not good at, and then let them do that part, to your point. So I totally agree that the hardest part for entrepreneurs is to make sure that they are self-aware in terms of their strengths and their weaknesses. Leverage your strengths, outsource your weaknesses, then you can scale your business effectively.
Boy, I'm going to remember that. Leverage your strengths, outsource your weaknesses. That is a quotable right there.
I just did a blog post last week, and it was that the three most powerful words a leader can say: "I don't know."
I do not know. Yeah.
And the pro tip was, if you're the really good leaders, say "I don't know" to their team, even when they do know, because it gives the team a chance to learn and grow. But, going back to your original question, Sonny, some of the things, and Dave's spot on, you've got to get the people part right first. But we have to be data-driven people organizations. And the other thing that I see is that when I walk into an MSP that wants our help, my first question is, okay, give me some metrics. What's on your scorecard? What was your profitability last year? And they go, well, I think it was about 6%. Well, maybe 7. I said, okay, so you don't know. So let's stop there. So the first thing we want to do is you've got to have good numbers. So we help them dial in the numbers. But then the important part is, how do we attach the numbers to the people? And now we bring in the team and we teach the team how their actions impact the numbers. And now now the team can connect the dots, and they understand that if I don't get my time entry in, then that affects this person's job and that throws off this whole number. And tying the data to the people and educating the people on how they can impact those numbers and how it impacts the organization as a whole, that's really important. And even the places that have the numbers, if I went to somebody who is responsible for that number, chances are they don't even realize that they're responsible for it, or they're unclear on how they can impact that number. And that's one of the things that we want to change when we go in. We want clear data, but we want to attach the data to the people, and we want the people to understand how their actions impact it and how they can be better at their job and how they can make everybody else's job better.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Shawn, because we were on to another question, and I was going to say you need to have data and you need to listen to it. And the other aspect of it is just relationships. Sonny, you asked, what should entrepreneurs focus on? It's really the people you put around you. It's data, having solid data and then listening to it, right? The data will always tell you what to do, right? Yeah. You just have to have it. You have to read it correctly. You have to listen to it. And then relationships, especially when a company is small, marketing does not replace relationships. You get to the point where you're bigger, you're getting some name recognition, and marketing will help. The relationships is 10 times more valuable than marketing, especially when your company is small. It's the people the people outside of your company, your existing clients. You want an army of people that are going to advocate for your services, and then things will start to come easy versus the sending an email to 1,000 people, getting 2 responses from people you'd never want to work with. You should be going out and meeting with people and meeting with them regularly, including your own clients, who will turn into salespeople for you if they like you.
Yeah, 100%. So relationship, right? Relationship is key. And as a leader, you don't understand relationships, you don't understand business. Because at the end of the day, every business is in a relationship business, means you do business with people. You cannot be successful in anything that you do with people until you understand people. And it's all about relationship, and relationship, trust, relationship, they're all interconnected. And as IT by design is growing, while I don't have to go to any kind of board, like a lot of my peers of our size, they have to go in, and they are probably learning a lot more about data than I am. But I'm also realizing that I cannot run the business the way I used to run unless I have data. And not only data, you pointed out accuracy of the data, because your decisions will be as accurate as the accuracy of data. There is dirty data that will lead to dirty decisions. There is good data that will lead you to good decisions. And I still remember, Shawn, that I was in your peer group, and you always taught us, you coached us to be more focused on data. When we used to bring all the financials and what's working, what's not working with the data to the peer group, and you knew who are the members where they're going to keep coming every quarter without having understanding of their numbers.
Right.
Yeah, those
very a
individuals
lot
always
of
were
fuzzy
stuck.
data in that group.
Yeah, and now I see value of what we used to talk about, you used to talk about as our facilitator, as our coach for the peer group. Now I really understand the value. At that time, we were doing it because we had to report back to the report card. We had to present every quarter. We were doing it, but now, like how it really helps you and how quickly it can lead you to in a wrong direction if you don't have good data. Now I realize the value as we are expanding in 3 different countries with 6, 7 sites now with close to 1,000 people. Now I'm like, I cannot run my business without having good data. And now I have to have a degree in smelling dirty data.
So, here's the problem too, Sonny, is when we don't have good data, we start making decisions on emotion. And
Yes.
we start attributing problems to people as opposed to process. And that's wrong. And that is, it's very rare that that's going to come up with a good result. There's a great quote by David Marquet, the author of Turn the Ship Around, which is, "We fix processes, not people." Okay. None of us are qualified to fix people. We don't have degrees in that.
Yeah.
But so many leaders think they're going to fix the people and that will solve the problems. If we have good data, we'll understand the source of the problem. We'll be able to attack it in a non-emotional way, and we'll fix the process, and then things run better. So get the emotion off the table and let your smart people attack the data and come up with solutions for you instead of attacking the people. So, it's all, you're always going to have better results when you get the emotions off the table, and that's what good data allows you to do.
Yeah,
100%.
That goes back to the mature companies that rely on immature companies rely on rock stars. Mature companies rely on rock star processes. The idea that you have to pay somebody 50% more because they need to figure out how to do everything versus that we figured it out. Here's how it's done. Any competent person can do it. It makes a giant difference in a company.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Absolutely.
It all goes, Shawn and I are both, deep roots in E-Myth. Michael Gerber is kind of like the godfather of the entrepreneur, right? Like that's the first thing he did was look at McDonald's. They were doing it in the 50s. Any McDonald's you go into, a hamburger is going to taste the same. And, those principles are just as applicable today. And
And I have been to, I normally have visited a McDonald's when I'm traveling. I just want to experience I get excited about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship, and especially entrepreneurs where they started with a small shop and now it's like, no matter where you go, and McDonald's is one of them. And like in India, when I was tasting McDonald's, it's called Maharaja Burger. It's just the name is different, and they probably have a little bit. You have to have like a little bit of local taste, like you put a little bit extra spice there to make it Maharaja Burger. Maharaja is like a king of kings size burger, like big burger. But to your point, the McDonald's story to Starbucks story, one thing that you find common in any business that is scaling effectively, profitably, is that they have really focused on what you both shared. They differentiated themselves. Number one, they knew who they are and what they do and what they don't do, and how they are doing things differently. And number two, they focused on people, they focused on the processes, they focused on the leadership development, like scaling their business with the leadership, and their overall, they dreamed big. And the vision was more of limitless. That's because the thinking was limitless.
And one of the things, Sonny, that you just said, one of the key points there is they knew what not to do. All right. A great quote by Michael Porter: "You don't have a strategy until you can say no." Sometimes we run into companies that they have a core competency they do really well, and then they want to grow, so they start tacking on things that are not within their core competency, and they start saying yes to a lot of things they probably shouldn't be. And the companies that really succeed are the ones that narrow down what they're offering to things that fall squarely within their core competencies, and then they partner with people who, for the other things, when it's the partner's core competency, instead of trying to take it on themselves. But knowing what not to do.
Yeah.
To-do list, not to-do list.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's funny, Shawn. I was just going over that with somebody right before we got on this this podcast. They said my favorite part of the job description is this person. Here's what this person does not do, and it sets boundaries on the position, because it's common in MSPs. They come from nothing, right? And when you're small, everyone's wearing 10 hats. They get a little bigger and they still want to give everybody multiple hats. And it's like, no, you can't have a service manager who's also going to be a project manager, who's also going to fill in for your help desk. When somebody's on vacation, you're 25 people. Like, this is setting things up for chaos in your company. It's time to grow out of it, So let me bring it full circle. So we wrote this book, right? And we're running around telling everyone, you have to narrow your focus. And, Shawn and I wound up splitting our companies this fall, in part because, we didn't want to read people a laundry list when they asked what we did, and Shawn is doing peer groups and coaching. He's doing it awesome. I was focused on recruiting. We just said, we gotta eat our own dog food here. And I think we've managed to stay really good friends while doing that. So it's been interesting. Anytime anybody that's a therapist or a counselor will tell you this, just because I can tell you how to do things doesn't mean I don't need advice myself, and don't have things I need to work on. So
having that collaboration, right? That because the hero target is the same, but you have the recruitment side of the capability, and then Shawn has the more of coaching and peer groups type of capability. But combined, that one-on-one, I talk about what my grandfather always taught us at our farm in India was one-on-one is not 2, it's 11. So collaboration that you do together with your unique capabilities, that becomes 11x reach, 11x impact, 11x growth. And last thing, I know you both love books. What are the top 3 that so I want you to share your book as well, the one that you wrote. I know there was a lot of excitement in the last couple of months. And what are the top 3 books, other than your book, that people must read? When I say people, entrepreneurs, people that are running businesses, that are leading teams. What are the top 3?
Sure, I would have the top 27. So
I know
I'm gonna look at my bookshelf.
I read a ton, and I in a peer group meeting, I recommend at least 3 or 4 new books a meeting, and people just go, "Oh my god!" But the top ones for most business people that I recommend are Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits by Greg Crabtree. It is the accounting book I wish I had had when I started my company, and it will help you to understand the accounting and the numbers and what we're going to be basing the metrics on. It's a very clear, easy to read, no nonsense book on that. The other book is Turn the Ship Around by David Marquet. It's about building leaders at all levels of your organization. That book was a game changer for my company. Instead of me telling what to do, they were coming to me going, "Here's the problem I see, and I intend to." And we grew 400% in 18 months after implementing that, and some of the other things that we did. That book was rocket fuel. And the last book, what I already recommended, I would now add Unreasonable Hospitality, because that's going to teach you how to create the client experience and how to differentiate yourself, but how to make a valuable experience so that you create raving fans who want to come back.
Thank you. And how about you, Dave?
Well, I would go with E-Myth. It's just so foundational in terms of that just because you know how to do something or make something, it doesn't mean you know how to run a business. And anybody that's going to go into business has to know how to run a business, not just bake cookies or fix computers. I would go with the original Pumpkin Plan by Mike Michalowicz. In terms of, like I said, narrowing focus and being able to create that opportunity for viral sales and really shoot the moon instead of, it's so applicable to MSP world because, like Shawn said, you don't have a strategy until you can say no. And one of the reasons small MSPs get really stuck is because they don't know what to say no to. They'll take on any kind of work, whether they're making money on it or not, whether it's a waste of time or not, and it bogs them down. They can't focus on the things that are really going to make them successful because they're busy with things that will not make them successful. And then I'd go The Breakthrough Company by Keith McFarland, which it's a great read. It focuses on companies that were once peers in particular industries and talks about why one took off and the other did not, and the lessons that can be learned from that. There's a lot of business books that don't scale down to small businesses well. You read them and you go, there's only so much I can take out of this. It's kind of over my head. It's not where I'm at. That's not one of those books. It will really unclog things for some people.
So last thing, how can people find you, Dave and Shawn, and where can people buy your book as well?
So Shawn at encorestrategic.io, Shawn, SHAWN. You can go to our website, encorestrategic.io. Right on the front page, there is a link to the book, and you can find it on Amazon. The audiobook should be out the end of February. So we are doing the final editing on the audiobook now, so that should be available. And I am always on LinkedIn, so you can find me there very easily.
You can get me on LinkedIn as well. Our website is peoplesharp.com. It's about 3 weeks old, so forgive the things that still need to be tweaked there. And my email is dave@peoplesharp.com.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Shawn, for your
Thank you, Sonny,
and sharing your experiences, sharing your very valuable insights. And I truly appreciate you coming here. I have a lot of respect for you both, what you have done, not only as entrepreneurs, for your families, your teams, and the community that you lived in, but also the community that three of us, we have one common community that we are part of is MSPs, and you have made a huge contribution there, huge impact. For that, I have a lot of respect for you both. Thank you so much, and take care.
The feeling is extremely mutual. I enjoyed reading your book, but as I've expressed before, the part I enjoyed the most was by far the biographical pieces. I love reading about you sleeping in the gas station after you came to America, and now you have 1,000 employees. So you don't have to tell the story because you are the story.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Shawn. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you for watching Sonny's Silver Linings. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.